Most people call me because what I call half-built bridges all over their business. Things that get built need to be managed. And if it's, it could be managed once a year, like an employee handbook that we're going to review for an hour once a year. That's an easy thing.
The CRM's like a kid. Like you gotta like feed the thing. You gotta tuck it in.
The right things, right order means you have to be clear on where we're going.
What's the main universal thing you think most teams are missing in terms of people?
Oh, hey, they're here.
What's up?
Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. You're really going to like what you're going to watch.
Yeah.
If you haven't liked it yet, you should really hit that like, subscribe button.
Like, subscribe. We're gonna get untucked, and you should probably do it with us.
And if not, we're going to get all in your inbox.
Let's go. Today, we are diving into execution, what actually happens after you set the vision and how you actually want to get it done and completed. So our guest is our good friend. This guy is brilliant. He has taught us a lot, whether Brad wants to acknowledge it or not, right? Joel, you are founder of GrowthCentric, and you are a fractional COO, which what the hell is that? We're going to talk about it. Who's helped scaling real estate teams and service-based businesses to high-performing organizations. You've led a ton of different operations, departments, and companies, and you've grown across dozens of different markets with acquisitions and done stuff with Zillow and all these other amazing things. So you know how to fix things, break them, and put them all back together. So we're going to dive into organizational structure, leadership, communication, and how to make operational problems no longer problems. So no pressure. You've built a lot. You've helped a lot. You've helped us. So let's jump into it. So what did and father, all the other things. So Joel, what did I leave off that I should have thrown in there? What did I not mention that I should have?
You hit everything important and a couple extra things too. So I'm pumped to be here with you guys. I've been waiting for the invitation. So thank you for having me.
Been a long list. Sorry, we've had to get through a couple people before we start taking requests.
Yeah, there we go. Fair. No, but what I love about you too is like you understand. I mean, obviously we're talking about real estate here, but you understand real estate from a really unique position. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people that are in the real estate world are, hey, I was a realtor and then they grew a team. Like you are not a realtor in the typical sense of the word, right? You might have your license somewhere, but like your operations, you are development, you are people, you are systems, you're all of that. So you've seen the messy. And one thing that I like a lot about you, and we'll talk about today, is like you're like Brad and I, you're a big fan of what actually works, not like the textbook. And I think sometimes people that are technical have a textbook, but then they're not really attached or in that they don't have the pulse on like what actually works. So I'm excited for you to share with us what actually works. So let's start off with this. You are a fractional COO. What is that?
Good place to start. So yeah, GrowthCentric, company I started about a year ago. We're a fractional executive company, and the main work that I do is as a fractional COO. So real estate teams primarily, but some other businesses, either who don't need a full-time head of operations or can't afford one, maybe just not ready for it yet. They bring me in on a part-time basis, really to help execute. And that's where I'm focused. Usually my clients are great at sales and marketing. They've grown their business. They're usually good at attracting and retaining talent, but we pop the hood and things are a mess. They know that they need to have better systems in place, that they need really to execute at a high level to keep growing the business and scale. And so that's where I come in. And so we can get a really outsized impact on a fractional basis because I can bring in my experience from growing, businesses from 6 to 8 figures and really help execute. That's where I'm focused. It's really all about execution.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually talked with the lady today. She runs a team in a local market I'm part of, just trying to get coffee with her, just trying to introduce myself. And she's like, I'm doing my business planning for the year. And I'm like, it's mid-January. Like what? She's like, yeah, I just took a class yesterday. I'm going to be set up. I'm like, oh, so yes, people like that need somebody like you to go ahead and do the planning in September so they can start in January instead of, I can't tell you how many people do their budgets in January for the year they're already in. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when you come into a team or organization, what are you looking at first? Like, what's that process like? Do you help figure out what's going to move the needle the most? Or I guess another thing is like, why do people typically call you? Like, what's the pain they're going through that typically causes them to reach out?
Yeah, I'll start there and then we'll get into kind of what does it look like when I come on board and start working with you. Most people call me because they have what I call half-built bridges all over their business that they've tried to execute, or they executed, came back a month later and found out that it wasn't working the way it was supposed to, or the team's not doing it the way they should. We start things, we don't finish them. We work on too many priorities, too many projects. So it creates these half-built bridges everywhere in the business. And obviously a half-built bridge can't take us where we need to go. So the number one reason why people hire me is, again, if I pop the hood, business is a mess. And we've grown fast, we're profitable, we don't have a problem getting clients, but everything else is messy in some way. And so the exciting part about it is, if you've solved sales and marketing, if you can get a client, that's the hardest thing to do in any business. So one of the fun parts about what I do is I'm working with people who have done the hard part already. What I do is it's not easy, but it's principle based. It takes, a certain level of organization and a certain personality to kind of fall in love with that type of process oriented and systems building. But if you're a business owner who's not having a problem with sales, like, you're already winning, and now you just need the right support. And so I come in and I'm the right support for you.
All right, let's play a game. On
right.
a percentage level, how many team leaders think that they're a good business operator, and aren't? That was the best.
I'm going to tell you something weird, I think. I think the number who think they're good, it's probably 50-50. It's probably 50-50 who are like, I'm good at it, I just don't have time to, or I don't like doing it. And then there's 50% who are pretty self-aware, and they're just like, I know I'm a mess here, and I know I need help here. Those people, the ones who know they're a mess, are usually further ahead than the ones that think they're good. It's almost always a finishing problem, or it's a management after it's executed. A lot of team leaders are good at half of what it takes to execute at a high level. And so we've got, again, all these half-built bridges. We've got systems that were really well designed. Like, you obviously put a lot of thought and effort into this system, but it's not working. And so I can come and help with that. So a lot of the ones who know they're a mess, it's because they've tried it. They don't even realize that they did it really well, but they stopped at 60%, and we need to get it to 100%.
Do you agree with the statement that if the team leader is a producing agent, that they need to hire a COO? Like, I don't think you can do both. Do you agree with that, or is there some pushback on that one?
I think it depends a little bit on kind of the size of the team and the complexity of the organization, but you certainly need help if you're producing, whether that looks like an operations manager, a full-time COO, somebody like me to come in and bridge that gap. You definitely need help. That's for sure.
And that's what I like about you and your business. And it's not here to necessarily sell it, but it's been really enlightening getting to know you over the last couple of years, because I've hired COOs, I've hired people to come help me. And I don't know, I'm in that middle, like, fat kid level where, like, I don't really have, like, I can't afford somebody who's really a COO, but they think they're a COO, but they really have the traits. And, like, they come in and just, like, do different shit and fuck it up. But, like, you come in, you know what you're doing, you can set it, you can do it. And then, maybe you stay on, or maybe you help them transition one that actually, but you put in the base framework because you know what you're doing. And it takes the pain and anguish out of trying with somebody that thinks they're a COO. So I think it's been fun to watch that progression, because I never thought about that before I met you.
Yeah, it's
And I
definitely.
think a big part is like self-awareness, right? Like, I think there's this myth that if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be good at the whole thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And what I love about Joel is I can go to him and be like, I am awesome at this. I really suck at this thing over here. And he's like, cool, you're not supposed to be good at that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then he just takes it and makes it beautiful. You know what I mean? And I think that's the key, is like, you don't have to be good at everything. And there's so many people that haven't come to terms with, I'm not that they're not working hard or not investing in themselves or growing, but, like, I'm not naturally wired that way. So why don't I go get a 10x return over here and let Joel or whoever that person is go do this and get that done. But my first question for you, Joel, is like, why the hell is the last 20-30% so freaking tough? Like, why can Brad and I get 700 half-built bridges out there? Like, you would think that they would just naturally finish off every once in a while. We're building something. Like, what is it about that last 20, whatever number you want to give that's so freaking brutal? Do we just give up? Are we lazy? Is it really complicated? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, there's a entrepreneur answer, and then there's a systems answer. So the entrepreneur answer is that it's fun starting things. You get really excited about a new idea.
Hey, you said you were going to talk about the personal stuff, Joel. I thought yeah. Okay. Yep.
You get, most entrepreneurs have an incredible ability to focus and be massively productive over a couple of days or a week, right? So you get this new idea of this system you're going to build. And again, you start it off, it's great, but then at some point the excitement wanes off a little bit, right? You build it halfway, or
it literally wanes off.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the personality answer it's fun to start things. You get excited about an idea and you get to go build it. That's awesome. The systems answer is that, and where most people screw up with execution is, even if you take something all the way to completion, you have to delegate the management of it. So we build something, but once you build something, it can't stay on your plate, because pretty soon you're going to have 100 things that you now have to manage. So
Interesting.
things that get built need to be managed. And if it's, it could be managed once a year, like an employee handbook that we're going to review for an hour once a year. That's an easy thing. Or it could be something that needs to get managed every day, every week, like a CRM to function properly. So where most people fail is you built it, but now you're still trying to be the one to manage it. And really, really quickly, that just becomes untenable because you've got too many things now. So even if you are a good executor as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you still have to delegate the management of the things that you're executing on. And that's the number one place where we fail with it. That's why we come back in 3 months and say, hey, I told you guys what to do. How come you're not doing it? Because you're still trying to manage it. And now there's no accountability rhythm. There's no cadence behind that. Maybe we didn't really install the right tracking and reporting. Kind of to the first part of where it's fun to start, but not to finish. The tracking and the reporting and then the accountability it's not the fun part.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us have been sold a lie. The CRM is the simplest example that, like, hey, it's 3 buttons. You get this thing up and rolling and it's autopilot. And for most of us, I think Brad and I, probably one thing we agree on is like the CRM's like a kid. Like you gotta like feed the thing. You gotta tuck it in. You gotta take care of the boo-boos. Like it's a living, breathing child. You know what I mean? Like you said, that you gotta watch out for it. It's not like, oh, I put everything on autopilot. Why isn't it working? So yeah, I do. I think that I've definitely underestimated like the management aspect of it. Like I built the carousel, but I still got to go by every once in a while and give it a shove to make sure it still spins. Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
I've built half-built bridges and then gone back and didn't realize I'd built half-built, and I found like the 3 other versions. I'm like, hey, we should do this. This is a good idea. And I'll build it. And then like, oh, I did one 3 years ago and 6 years ago, and I didn't file it right, and I didn't finish them. So yeah, I don't even know if it's a bridge anymore. Maybe it's like a step or something.
Well, that's a good, there's a good example right in there of kind of the value of fractional leadership too. And a lot of it for me is helping you prioritize and then helping you stay on track with it. So what are the most important things that we could focus on over the next 90 days? Let's focus on those. And then when you come in and say, hey, I got this cool idea. I want to do this. I want to implement that. I went to this conference and somebody told me I'm stupid if I don't do this thing. Well, then we can have a conversation at a higher level than you can have with your admin about, is this in alignment with our goals? Does this fit our strategy? Or is this something we should revisit, in Q2?
How do you help people, especially high producers or high functioning people like us? How do you help them focus? Because you're going to come into, they need you. They've reached out. They're to a place that like they need help, and so they're going to be sort of I would assume, sort of a messy shit show in the back office. And like, how do you wean them through and filter through what's important, what's not important to them? Because I'm sure everybody's different.
Same answer for this as what it looks like when I start working with the client, which is, if you're not already, we spend time getting really, really clear on the vision for the organization. My clients roll their eyes at me at this point.
So
probably
boring.
I say, right things, right order so many times. And so the right things, right order means you have to be clear on where we're going. I can help you build it, but you need to be clear on what we're building here. Mm-hmm. So do we have a clear vision? And then do we have a strategy? And so one of the things that's been really effective for me is anytime a new fractional client comes on, I fly out or drive out for a day and we do a full day of strategy. So we have a vision. We're going to design a strategy now to help us pursue that vision. And the main essence of strategy is really deciding what not to do. So we're getting really clear on our priorities. But now, when you come with that idea, I can tie it back to the strategy or I can tie it back to the vision. And I can say, Brad, hey, I don't think that's in alignment with what you told me is important, with what you told me this company is headed. Because otherwise it's just you and I arguing about what's a good idea or not. So I have to be able to say this is in alignment or not with our strategy and ultimately with the vision.
Yeah, I had a business coach. Actually, he helped us start this company years ago when we were strategizing. We didn't know what to do. And the best analogy he said was, you're going to build the highway and then we're going to set the bumpers on the side. You can go as fast as you want, any lane you want, but at least we're not, like, the guardrails are going to keep you in there. Mm-hmm. And when he said that, it has helped us tremendously over the years, because as new things come up in real estate, new ideas, we're like, no, that's not inside the bumpers. And we don't want to change. We can, but we don't want to change. So that visualization of just a highway and just guardrails to keep us in alignment is something that's really stuck with me for a very long time. So it's apropos. I love
Yeah,
it.
I think Mark Hummel said it on one of our other calls. He's like, a vision isn't meant to expand. A vision is actually meant to narrow. He said it more eloquently than that. But like a great vision isn't mean like, oh, we do 1,000 more things. Actually, a great vision actually means like, no, we actually only do these things and we focus here. And I think that's an important differentiator.
Yeah, and then strategy takes it from a 4-lane highway to a 2-lane highway. Basically, they're healthy constraints. Yeah, so that's the only way we can have that conversation is if I know what the vision is and the strategy is, and I can connect it back.
Do people have a vision for their companies when you kind of get in there, do you think? Or they have like an idea, but it's not really like a true vision?
Most of them have a lot of clarity in their minds. They've never really spent the time to write it down or articulate it, or they've done one of the many tools or tasks that are out there for like crafting a vision statement, right?
Yeah.
And they end up with a 2-sentence, but how could a 1-sentence, 2-sentence, 1-paragraph statement encompass where you want this business to go and what you want it to look like. So I like a tool called a book called Vivid Vision, and I've been using it with my clients, which is we're looking 3 years in the future, and you're going to get really, really detailed about what it looks like. What does the office space look like? Is it modern? Is it rustic? What does the front desk look like when you walk in? What types of meetings do you have? What types of agents do you have? What sources of business do you have? What's your culture like? All these things. Get really, really clear on it and spend the time to write it down, and then we can articulate it, because everybody in the organization needs to understand that. Not just me to help with the strategy. Everybody needs to understand it. Where are we headed? And can I, as somebody who spent most of my career as an employee, this is my first business that I've ever owned by myself without partners. Can I, as an employee, achieve my goals within your vision? And so that is especially true for agents. Is your vision big enough that I can chase my vision within your vision? And for the team leaders who have a big enough vision and can articulate it, they recruit better, they retain longer, better cultures, better results.
Yeah, I can attest. You recommended that book to me a couple times ago at E5, and maybe a year ago, and I went through the process, and I'm actually like just finalizing. I have a business partner, so it's a little bit outside the realms of that book a little bit, but it's been amazing. It really has, because I thought I had a vision, I thought it was clear, and I mean, I'm just walking around just brain dumping on everybody, and I finally got it put together. My business partner's put her 2 cents in there because we're pretty much aligned on it, and we did. I mean, it took a whole day by myself, sitting in a hammock by my house, and just going through like what I want and just thinking about it.
By the way, screw hammocks. Did you actually sit in a hammock? I think hammocks are the worst thing that were ever invented. That's just my 2 cents.
When your legs are long enough to reach the ground, it's not that hard to get into them.
Hey, what the hell with hammocks is all I'm saying, right? Like, I feel like they should be outlawed, right? Like, I've never had a great hammock in and out experience.
Yeah, they sound cool, but
now you get the Eno hammocks. Like, they're pretty much like a little pocket. You can't, I mean.
No, all hammocks across the board, death to hammocks. I will die on that mountain. All right. So Joel, you say that most companies struggle because they're poorly designed. And then you say that organizations behave according to their design. So like what is the kind of the typical poorly designed elements you often see, especially with real estate teams?
Yeah. So where this comes from is, again, it's this right things, right order idea. So we have a vision, we have a strategy, we talk about execute. But what people get wrong a lot is we should be designing the team that we need to execute the strategy. And so a lot of times there's just a misalignment between the strategy and what the team actually needs to look like. So easy example is, all right, if you're an internet lead machine, that's like what my brokerage was when I had the brokerage. What's the strategy? Okay, well, we need to maximize conversion for our lead generation. So having a CRM manager was a major hire for us. So that's an example of designing the team. If you're a referral-based business and you're trying to maximize referrals, a client care coordinator might make more sense. So just easy examples of how we design it in support of the strategy. But another thing that people get wrong is we think, how's our business going to function on a day-to-day basis? And most times people say, well, it's according to our purpose or it's according to our vision. And that's just, it's not enough. Those are critical components, but it has to be designed. And the way it's designed will determine how it's behaved. So you think of like a mountain bike versus a road bike. Those are very different designs, and how they function is a factor of their design, not of their vision or their purpose or something like that. So the way this looks really, really practically, and some of the things people get wrong a lot, is what a lot of team leaders do is, well, I got John on the team. What's John good at? What does he like to do? okay, well, he could do social media for us, and then he could probably like help us plan our events and stuff. And it's like, okay, well, is social media and events a part of the strategy right now? Is that a major focus? Well, no, but John likes doing them, right? So now we're not designing our business, we're just kind of letting it happen. And so that's a big one. So we always start, when we're talking about design, we start with the function in the business and what needs to happen. So we've got a sales function, a marketing function, operations function, finance function, things like that. What are the key things that need to happen within those functions? So now we're into roles and responsibilities. Then we start getting into people. But we don't start with people when we're designing it. We design it first. Then we say, do we have the right people right now? Do we need to make a hire? Does somebody need to go because they don't match, what needs to happen in the organization? So we start design from function, and eventually we end up with people. Most entrepreneurs start with people and kind of create positions around their people, as opposed to let's make sure our people are supporting our strategy and ultimately our vision.
So good. Yep. And you see it a lot where I think one of the things that I've done with my clients in the past is like, let's write out an org chart a year from now with no names, right? Like what's the and it's very hard for them to do that because in their mind, they're like, well, what's Shannon going to do? And it's like, and you tell they're coming from that place of like, you got great people. Yeah. And my biggest pet peeve is when somebody says they're a great culture fit. And I'm going, there's so many nice people out there, but like a great culture fit. And like what there's, it's like when you're putting someone in the wrong seat that they're not good at, just because they're nice and honest doesn't mean that you're doing them any kind of favors. So
what's the main universal thing you think most teams are missing in terms of people? Like no matter what their strategy is, but there's gotta be a couple of just common things. What do you feel like those might be?
Yeah, I think there's usually not enough support. That's the number one thing I see. It's maybe not even a specific position, but again, this like, all right, is your TC also your assistant who's also your admin? Maybe that worked when you were smaller. Is that still working? Is that still serving you? Do those positions need to split, right? And then I think a lot of what's missing is marketing support too. Whether that's again based on your strategy, but social media strategy, is that email marketing, is that somebody who can manage your Google pages and run ads for you, things like that. But it's almost always support for the different functions. And then in larger organizations, so now once we're above, 20, 30 agents, there's almost always leadership missing. There's one leader at least, head of company, team leader, maybe they're in production, maybe not. But most larger teams are missing a next layer of leadership, and that makes it really, really hard to get to the next level.
I guess that would be you, right? I mean, like a COO would be the next step. As you get larger, the team leader still wants to do it. You come in and run that. I wouldn't take you out of a job, but I guess that's the first hire.
That'd be one example. But talking about missing leadership, that could be, an agent council. That could be just some informal positions of leadership of agents on the team who are taking more responsibility for helping out with the newer agents. That could look like who's head of marketing. So yeah, that can look a lot of different ways, but missing leadership overall is a big one. Yeah. The easy formal one would be a sales manager, a CEO, a head of marketing, something like that. But even informally, there has to be ways for people to step up into leadership within your organization. I think your ability to develop leaders, I think, is probably the highest ROI skill or activity that exists in business.
Say more about that. Like I know there's the red book in real estate, and I know you previous Keller Williams, you know that very well, but like what is the development? Like what do you think people should be doing that they're not when it comes to their teams?
I just did a training on operations and kind of developing operations people. And I think that the number one thing you can do is create opportunities for people to have leadership experience within the team, and then for your staff especially, expose them to leadership. So if you've got an admin that you want to develop into an operations manager, you've got an operations manager you want to develop into an integrator, get them in the rooms, bring them to the masterminds, have them sit in on some of the calls that you have to make, expose them to the higher levels of business and to leadership. And then for creating opportunities, that could be, hey, we're going to have a rotation of agents who are leading the huddle, and you need to come to huddle with something prepared, some personal development or business development to share with the group. And that could be, again, informal mentorship. Every leadership position doesn't have to be paid. who's out there who's interested in, being available for some of the newer agents to ask questions to, who's interested in leading some trainings for the team. You'll find that a lot of people, even some of the, your more experienced top producers, are looking for ways to contribute and to be a leader. So creating opportunities, again, it doesn't have to be formal, but create opportunities for people to step up into that.
My favorite part about what you're saying too is having like an on-ramp. Because I think we very often have like, oh, this person's great at sales, boom, now you're a leader of blank, right? And like, there's been no like journey to that. I mean, you see people that are great at sales, but maybe they don't know anything about leadership. But so like, I love your idea of like, how can I onboard them? How can I give them examples of what other leaders look like? How can I get them kind of doing little classes and then working their way up? Yeah. And instead of just that, like turn on the switch and expect them to be awesome is big.
And I think that it's on leadership for just a second still, that's been really helpful for me in different organizations is a lot of people that have no idea what leadership means or what it is. So I teach an exercise, which I just call it leadership framework. Maybe I'll come up with a better name for it, but we're going to define what it means to be a leader within our organization. Because if you Google leadership, you'll get 100 different definitions. If you think
Absolutely.
of the leadership qualities that you respect in the leaders you admire, there's probably a whole bunch of different things. So what does it mean to be a leader here? And so I've done that for myself, and I challenge my clients to do it. And so for me, there's 5 components. What it means to be a leader: it's extreme ownership, leadership is communication, empower the team, remove obstacles, and then we're moving in a known direction. And those are the 5 principles that it means to be a leader in my organizations. And now I can help train on those 5 principles. And that's for me. There's certainly plenty of other good ones that could be in your leadership framework, but I challenge people to spend some time with the leaders you admire or the leadership resources you're consuming. Kind of figure out when you say I want you to be a better leader, Wayne. Well, what do you mean by that? So I have kind of a concrete framework for what I mean when I say you're going to be a leader here in this organization.
That and I love that, because then you can, hey, scale of 1 to 5. How are we doing each one of these 5 aspects? I can actually give somebody a scorecard and then a roadmap to actually get better at those. Yeah, one of my biggest pet peeves was at a previous company where they're like, oh, this person's out of culture. But nobody had defined what culture actually was, right? So we just use that word whenever we wanted to get rid of somebody. You know, to be like, oh, they're out of culture. It's like, what the? But like you said, there's nothing to point at. It was just this arbitrary, like, they're not being a good leader. Like, what the hell do you mean? Like, I'm working really hard. Well, yeah, that's not all the components. So I love you quantified that.
They don't fit in with the popular kid, what that usually means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So what do you do to actually what do you teach people to actually build great culture? Like if you're like going to a team, like, hey, you need to build a great culture. What are the components of that?
I think culture, and there's a book by this title, so this isn't me, but it's this idea of culture is what you do and not what you say. So it starts with the core values. And again, right things, right order, we get really clear on the core values, because the core values, if they're really alive in our business, they become the decision-making filters. How do you make decisions every single day in this organization? And the things that we do then are going to become what our culture is. So first, it's core values. Are they alive in your organization? And again, you can start with, let's look at the core values that we have on paper right now and say, if everybody was living out these values, what kind of culture would we have? So make sure you got your values right. And you get to design your organization, right? You get to do whatever you want. You can have the work hard, play hard culture, and that's one of your values. Or you can have the, work-life balance culture, and we have a family first, core value. So what, if everybody's really living out these values, is it going to create the culture that you want? And make sure there's alignment there. And then we can train on those things. Okay, one of our core values is do the right thing. Okay, what does it mean to do the right thing? And what does it mean to is the best question for it.
I think what's great about those values is I have them, and then some of the exercises we've done in the past is like, then articulate what those look like. So if your value is resilience or whatever, is like, what are examples of that? If your value is family first, like, what are examples of, like, do we have them kind of articulated? Then can we actually speak to them? And I think people get values and standards messed up. People want to have 100 standards. What they really need is 2 or 3 standards, and then a list of values that they're like coaching to, training people into, all that over time. So I think those get really messed up.
Yeah,
We're confused.
I agree. I totally agree. And then again, we talk about them every day. We live them out. We share the examples of, especially we share the examples of when it costs something to live out one of our values. So, all right, what does do the right thing mean? do the right thing in this situation means I don't take this client on, even though there might be a paycheck at the end of it. Or it means, we have to let that person go, especially share the stories of when it cost you something to live out the values. And then the second piece of this, getting into that kind of the operations and the system side of it, is we design policies that are going to incentivize or require adherence to the values. So I'll give you two examples here. One is, and this is kind of a famous one, Ritz-Carlton, they want a culture and they have core values of world-class customer service, right? So they have a policy that any Ritz-Carlton employee can spend up to $2,000 per occurrence to solve a problem, no questions asked. You can buy that person dinner because they had a rough check-in. And there's extreme examples, right? There's examples of employees leaving during their shifts to drive to a pharmacy to get medicine for the guest who forgot their meds or lost their luggage, right? There's stories of people buying a new suit for the guy who lost his luggage, but he's getting married tomorrow. So they put a policy in place to incentivize and ensure the culture they want. Another example of that is A16Z. It's a big venture capital fund. Ben Horowitz and Mark Andreessen, they said one of our core values and what we want our culture to be is we respect the entrepreneur. So if we invested in a business as our VC fund, we want to show respect to the entrepreneurs that we invested in. So they have a policy that if anybody is late to a meeting with an entrepreneur or a founder that they invested in, they get fined by the minute. It seems extreme, but hey, if you're serious about our culture of respect for the entrepreneur, we put a policy in place to make sure that we're showing that respect. So that's where how can you systematize some of it is what are some policies you could put in place that are going to help you build the culture you want. When I had my brokerage, we had a policy and we were all in office, not remote. We said, I'll buy you any book you want. Doesn't have to be about real estate or business, but after you read it, it goes on the company bookshelf. So that was just a quick little policy because one of our core values was never stop learning. So we put policies in place to drive those. And then again, we have to talk about it every day. So your culture is going to become, what do you actually do on a daily basis? And then if you have your culture's values as decision-making filters, then we put policies in place to drive those home.
So good. Give me some examples of a couple things you've done within companies in the last year that have been really helpful. Like what are a couple of the examples, just so people can really good idea of what you do, how you do it. Like what are a couple of examples of companies you've gone into and what you've help them with?
Yeah. When it comes to, again, back to this half-built bridges idea, there's a second reason people hire me, and that's they don't really know what's going on in their business. So a lot of time for me has been spent in either helping them understand their finances, cleaning up their finances, redesigning a P&L so that it actually helps us make decisions on a monthly basis. And then what are the most important numbers we need to be looking at? How often are we looking at them? What a lot of entrepreneurs miss is they know they should be looking at the numbers. They might even know what numbers they should be looking at, but they don't know where to get them, or they don't have anybody getting them the numbers. So that's a big piece.
And Brad and I give the analogy of like step 5 on our success path is build the cockpit in a sense. And the cockpit is like, you're the pilot, you get to go in the cockpit, but you also get to stay there because you have the gauges and dashes in front of you. So that's what you're talking about. Like I can't tell you how many times the one thing I hear the most when I review a P&L is, I don't know. Like, what's this line? I don't know. What's in this bucket? I don't know. Right. What do you think this was? I don't know. Why do we have this category? I don't know. Right. Like because the P&L is bullshit for them. Right. It doesn't help them make decisions. It's not real. So they look at that gas gauge and they don't trust it. So it's worthless to even having the cockpit. So I love that you're able to build that entire cockpit so somebody can stay in there and make decisions without having to leave the cockpit all the time.
Real concrete example of that is one of my recent clients is a little bit larger organization and a little bit more complicated. And so we created a CEO report. And so the CEO report is, I sat down with the owner and said, what do you need to see every Monday for you to feel like things are working the way that they should be, and so that you don't feel tempted to dive into the weeds and start messing with things? Because that was the big feedback we got from the team is CEO meddles. Like I'm a little worried about this thing, so I'm going to dive right into it and create a bunch of chaos. So we created a CEO report. What are the most important metrics that you want to see every Monday? And then we created a system where the team pulls those metrics. Right now, since it's new, I'm validating those metrics to make sure they're accurate. And he just gets a report every Monday afternoon that has all of those listed out. And then we have it benchmarked again right now, which are assumptions we're making about what the targets should be. but we'll refine that as we go. So that's a real concrete example of what's going on in the business. Okay, here's the actual numbers that you want to see every week. So creating a CEO report's a big one, creating dashboards a big one, redesigning P&Ls so that things are categorized properly for decision making. Your bookkeeper's probably building your P&L for simplicity of tax preparation, but you need to have a P&L that's helping you make decisions. And sometimes that's designed differently.
It's so funny. We're talking about math and team leads. And, I was talking to one the other day and they're like, yeah, my cost per lead from, I don't know what, a Zillow or whatever is like $200. Okay. But you've only been closing 3 a month and you spend $6,000. Your cost to close is $2,000 and you're only making $1,500. So explain to me how this is working out. So it's just funny because you think you know the math until you actually have somebody like yourself come in and honestly explain it to you. Because I would guarantee most team leaders do not have business backgrounds or finance backgrounds or anything of this. They're bartenders like me or criminologists or something.
I was a bartender too. I'm with you. Probably not as a good one as you were, or at least not a fun one as you were.
It's like cocktail. I'm flipping stuff over here, catching bottles in my mouth. It's crazy.
But you hit on something there, Brad, that Wayne also kind of touched on in the beginning of the conversation, which is this mindset shift of like, okay, I don't have to be good at everything. And there's a second mindset shift that I really try to help entrepreneurs make. The first one is, okay, it's okay for me to delegate and get help and bring in people who are better than this. The second shift is better for the organization if you as the entrepreneur are focused on the most important things that you can do, which again, drive growth, cast the vision, important decisions, things like that.
Yeah. So where's a good place they can find your information and to contact you if they've got any interest in hiring you as a fractional COO?
Yeah. Easiest way, Joel at thegrowthcentric.com. Otherwise, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. You can message me there. It's always just Joel Perso.
Sweet. What do you wish people would take from this conversation if they feel like they're on the fence of needing more help on the leadership side? What do you feel like they need to know?
If you feel like you need more help, you probably needed more help a while ago. And so have the conversation. That it could be a coach, it could be a fractional, it could be a VA hire, it could be a piece of technology, but get the help. So the conversations are always free, right? If you want to talk to Wayne about coaching, he'll have a conversation with you about coaching. If you want to talk to me about fractional, we'll have a conversation about fractional. So it's more than worth putting some time into figuring out exactly what you need to help you either solve your problems or go to the next level. And Wayne's, best in the business. And if it's fractional that you need, I'd love to talk to you.
Well, I think for most people, if you feel like you don't have a great cockpit with all the gauges, like have a call with Joel. If you feel like you have half-built bridges, and the great thing about you, Joel, is you understand this world. So what you can do in 20 minutes or an hour blows away what somebody else is going to take 3 weeks to try to put together. So people if you're thinking, oh, well, these fractional, he's not working 40 hours a week, I guarantee you're getting done more in a short amount of time than somebody else who's starting from scratch or doesn't have the experience you have. A fractional is a great step for most of these people to go. And then Joel let you know, like, hey, what's next, or here, what we're working towards, or what we're getting at. But yeah, let him come in, let him do a little bit of an audit, let him help you get clear on what dashboards you need. And then what I love about you too, Joel, is like the path to actually get the data in the dashboard. So not only do you identify what the dashboards are, but now how do we get the data there so that you can. But what did we say earlier today? Know everything, do nothing. And you want to truly be a CEO, right? Know everything, do nothing, and that's what Joel helps you get to.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Joel. We'll have all your stuff on the contact notes below. And people should come check out E4 and E5 with us because they get to hang around cool people like you and sometimes Wayne, and just have a good time. So thanks for being here. Thanks for making time. I know you're super busy. So
appreciate you guys. Thank you.